So, I made a lot. This is gonna be for you, so I don't need this, but it's for you. So I made a lot of editing, but a lot of them were questions. So, like when you say the film, I don't know what film you're talking about. So when you introduced the other films, you actually said what they were. So like you said, a child who stole a Kina copy, and then you said Up. But this film you never said. So what I've noticed is that most of your sentences, they just needed some clarification. So you say like nouns, but you don't say, like, you don't have a lot of background information on them. So they're like, when you say the conflict, I don't know what conflict you're talking about. So there I would have said like the big conflict was this, and it was between Mark and the twins. And then I wasn't sure if Mark was the prosecutor or the defendant, because you wrote that Mark was the defendant, and then the protagonist Mark to be the prosecutor.
I mean, he's the both. One side, the one sue him, and another side, he sued another person.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe just say that in the paper, because when I'm reading it just like this, it makes me think that you're confused, but you're not. But that's the way it came across in their writing. There's a lot of things that like you repeated things that weren't necessary. So like here, in order to revenge his ex-girlfriend who broke up with him. Well, you already said that like she broke up with him up here, so you don't need to re-say that. Or this comment was pretty much because you start talking about the twins, but and the Harvard connection, but I don't know what that is or who they are. So like how we'd need to like add in a sentence of how they related back to the protagonist. But yeah, I'll let you look through the other things. Yeah, there is another. You talking about the inner conflict. Well, I don't know if the conflict in this sentence is talking about this conflict is whether his ex-girlfriend was not knowing about the website or if he had the desire to expand. So just clarifying would be helpful. Do you have any questions?
If I writing like a paper or the film, should I use the verb plus s or verb plus the ed?
I think that you're supposed to use past tense. That would be a question for your teacher. But either way, you need to have it consistent through the whole paper.
So that is ed.
Yeah. Most of them are ed. Some of them there's like irregulars. So.
So what about if I want to write a action which in the past of the another action, but another action is ed. So what should I use for the before action? You know what I mean? There are two actions. One happens before and what happens after if I use ed for this after one. What grammar should I use for the first?
Still past tense. Like it's still all past tense. So like you're saying, like in one thing he went to the store, but before that he drove to the mall. Like that. It would still be past tense. Yeah. Most of them, yeah, most of this was just you needed to clarify and then keep it past tense. So you went from a lot between infinitive verbs in past tense or present tense and past tense. You switched around back and forth. So like here, they had at first they have different opinions. That would need to be they had past tense. This person Edward, you didn't introduce. I don't know if that you meant to write Eduardo. Is that Eduardo?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then there's when we get down here, since you introduced Sean up here, when you start using.
So do I need to say Eduardo?
Eduardo
came back. He found out.
Yes.
Sean had
You could just say when Eduardo came back, he found out that Sean lived, not had lived, because that's a different verb tense right there. So you just need Sean lived with Mark. You don't need the word together, because if you're saying that he lived with him, it's already implied that they lived together. So you could either say that he lived, or that they lived together, or that he lived with Mark. There's some with the pronouns. You introduce a pronoun. You said he realizes, but I don't know if the he you were talking about is Eduardo, Sean, or Mark. Not. Eduardo. So then you need to say that Eduardo realized. Yeah. So when.
Does that mean every sentence like this he also when Eduardo do something, Eduardo realize and Eduardo feels angry.
As long as
Eduardo goes to them.
As long as it's clear who the subject is. In this case, since you're talking about so many people, it's not clear. So if you said Eduardo realized that Sean helped to develop their business and wishes to help, but he had nothing to contribute, you could say he again because you're still talking about like he, Eduardo, like that's still clear. And then you need to say like he felt angry and wanted to get Mark's attention back. After thinking it over, he went. But the he is still okay because you like since you said Eduardo up here, it makes sense. Like the subject is carrying over. It's just that when you mentioned Sean and Mark, it makes this pronoun confusing. Whether is it actually Eduardo or is it Mark?
Yes.
Do you have any questions so far?
No.